Hey everybody, welcome back to I Got Bored. My name's Aiden Vargas, and I feel like I have been away from you guys for so long because the last two videos I released I made around the time that I started this new job. And it's been tiring, it's been exhausting. I've been so mentally fatigued from this new job. It's like so much more demanding than I thought it was going to be. And then I also had family in town. So I just have not had a moment to myself to like script anything or film. And also it's slasher summer. So I am literally consuming slasher media every single second of the day. I'm reading it, I'm listening to it, I am watching it. I am just so locked into finishing as much slasher media as I can this summer because I feel like last summer was a ginormous fail that I'm really trying to make up for it. And then I also have Lollapalooza at the end of the month, and I have done absolutely no prep for that whatsoever. I have barely finished my Lollapalooza playlist. I barely know what stages that I'm going to, so I'm also trying to get ready for that. So it's been a really long time since I've been able to chat with you guys, and I'm really happy to be here because if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I had a terrible day, and there's nothing that cheers me up more than ranting about books. So that's what we're doing today. This is everything that I read in May and June of this year. So May was the last month of normal reading before slasher summer started in June. So majority of the books that I'm going to be talking about in this video are summer slashers, but I want to stick to mostly a general review of those books, sort of just like if I would recommend them as books, like were they just good books, and not necessarily dive into the summer slasheriness of the books, because I am going to do a recap of all of the summer slashers that I read at the end of the summer and really go in deep on like whether or not they're slashers, whether or not they constituted as a summer slasher, where I would rank all of them in reference to each other. And also I'm doing multiple summer slasher reading vlogs, so I'm going to be going way more in depth on some of these books in those vlogs as well. So this is going to be sort of just like, was it a good book? Would I recommend it? A little bit more general, less spoilers to no spoilers, basically. Between May and June of this year, I read 10 books, which every time I check in with you guys, I feel like the number is getting smaller and smaller. But in my defense, it's all Dungeon Crawler Carl's fault. It's all Matt Dinneman's fault. It's all his fault. Last month it's July. Oh my God, I'm so behind. This year is going by so fast, and I can only read so fast. There's so many books to read in so little time. It's July. Last month was June. In May, I read 3 books. Kind of embarrassing. I know, 3 books is embarrassing. In my defense, they were all like 700 to 900 pages. Matt Dinneman, you're trying to kill me. So technically that's like 3 books each. Technically that's like 2 to 3 books each. Technically in May I read 9 books. But yeah, I only read 3 books because it was 5, 6, and 7 of the DCC series, all 700 to 900 pages. And then in June, the first book that I finished was book 8, the newest book of the DCC series. I was really trying to finish it in May because I wanted to just start June 1st slasher summer ready to go. That didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It's fine. We forgive ourselves. So that's why I read so little. Only 10 books, but they were all super long. And in June, I read 7, 6 of them being slashers. So I'm really going hot and heavy with the slashers already. The official breakdown of my books these 2 months is 1 physical book, 6 Kindle books, and 3 audiobooks, which my goal is to read more physically and consume less audioly. And I feel like this is the first recap video where I've actually read more books than I have listened to. Could it be circumstance? Yes, because like I said, I have a new job, I have a new commute. My job is a lot more demanding, so I can't listen to anything while I'm working really like I could at the bakery. My commute's also really short, so I can only get in like 10 to 15 minutes worth of an audiobook. And since it's slasher summer, instead of listening to audiobooks while I'm doing work around the house, I'm watching slashers. I'm trying to make my way through the entire Friday the 13th franchise because a new TV show is coming out starring Hot Velma, and I want to see that, but I want to know all of the lore before I see that because it's going to be a lore-heavy show. And I need to do my Fear Street rewatch. I'm also making my way through Sleepaway Camp, so I'm booked, busy, mediated out. But anyways, let's start with the actual book reviews. The first book that I finished of May DCC book 5. No one's shocked. The Butcher's Masquerade, 5 stars. 5 freaking stars. And the only thing that I wrote on my Fable review for The Butcher's Masquerade by Matt Dinneman, DCC book 5, The Butcher's Masquerade, 5 stars. I'm literally fucking sobbing right now. That's all I wrote. That is all I wrote. It's the only thing that I wrote. Full disclosure, the first 4 books that we're talking about in this video are all DCC. And while I am going to refrain from spoilers because I think that everybody should read these books, I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler free as possible. If I do decide to do a spoiler, I'm going to warn you guys. However, this is book 5, 6, 7, and 8 out of like a soon to be 10 series, like book series. Like there's going to be 10 books. I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you are on book 2, anything I say is going to be a spoiler. So this is my warning. If you do not want a single spoiler, you don't want to know if Donut is alive, you don't want to know if Carl is alive. Like I can't, if I say a single character's name, you're going to know they're still alive. You're going to know they're still kicking it. So if you do not want a single, absolute single minute spoiler for DCC 5 through 8, I recommend skipping the first 4 books that I'm about to talk about. But yeah, when I finished this book, I had tears streaming down my face. Absolutely bawling my eyes out. Took a selfie, sent it to my best friend. You need to read this series. That's what I thought would convince her to read these books, is me absolutely sobbing over this book. And then I was so mad at my husband because he's read these books before. And I was like, how could you not warn me? How could you not tell me that my heart was going to get ripped? I thought this was just going to be a fun, silly little book about a pantsless, shoeless man and his sassy little cat killing some monsters, boop, 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 Stardew Valley style. I don't know. No. Inconsolable. This book was The Hunting Grounds, which is where the crawlers be hunted. The crawlers do hunting. Top 3. Top 3 favorite books. On the edge of my seat. Every single plot I cared about. Every single character I cared about. Like, the entirety of the book, beginning to end. I feel like this is where you really start to see Carl develop as a character into his like Katniss Everdeen, remember who the real enemy is type thing. I feel like this is where you start to see the crawlers really come together as well and sort of turning on the system. Like we all know it's a rebellion book. It's where the rebellion is starting to rebel. The rebellion is rebelling. Everything with Miriam Dom and Prepotente, everything with Signet. I'm sorry. Okay. Really fast, really quick spoiler section because I love this book and I just want to talk a little bit in detail. So now I'm going to go into some major spoilers. So if you haven't read book 5, skip to the next one. Major spoilers starting in 3, 2, 1 right now. The Miriam Dom and Prepotente of it all. Like, I know we're going to lose characters we care about. But the way you did it, Matt, was, how dare you? Offensive. How you, the sweet little old lady, vampirism, dead in front of her son. When the live action comes out, that scene is going to rip me to shreds if it's done well. We don't want another live action Avatar situation happening with our beloved DCC, but I have fears. The parallel between book 1, Carl being like, we don't risk our lives for our pets, Donut. And then Donut asking Carl if he would sacrifice himself for her, and he goes, in a heartbeat. Their relationship in this book just really started to, because at first I was like, I don't think I'm vibing with Donut. Like, I don't think I like everyone loves Donut, and she's kind of irritating me. This book, full on her side. The relationship between the two of them, absolutely amazing. Like, heartbreaking, beautiful, besties for life, tragic, doomed. Some might say doomed. The entire Signet storyline, I thought I was gonna hate. When she got introduced in book 2, I was like, go away. I don't want this. You're interfering with Donut and Carl. You're risking their lives. Donut almost died because of you. Manga almost died because of you. Like, I couldn't care less. And then she comes back around and I'm like, great, we have to deal with Signet again. Her entire backstory, her entire revenge story, her entire revenge arc, everything, beautifully written. Her tattoos, and when they lost the school teacher and one of the little guys, and she tattooed him, that was beautiful and glorious. And then the fact that she sacrificed herself for Carl. Carl was literally about to die. I thought that Matt Dinniman was about to pull a Divergent on us and we were going to have some sort of like POV switch. Carl's dead, Donut's taking over. Like, I know that he's going to survive because it's only book 5 out of book 10 out of like 10 books. But I was like, he's dead. He's going to do it. Like, I don't see how he's going to get out of this. And then Signet, realizing her entire life's been a lie, her entire revenge story is pointless, that her mom never actually existed, and she destroys herself to save Carl. And then we lose Lewis's best friend. He was supposed to be the best man. Brittany's face. Just the entire ending of the back and the entire ending of that book. Katya and the sepsis crown. I was just taking punches left, right, and center. It was emotional. I never thought I'd get that emotional. I don't think I've ever gotten that emotional over a book, and it really tore me apart. The next book that I read was, of course, DCC Book 6, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride, and I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really liked this one. I really liked the system. It was like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon card type system where the head of each party, so in this case Donut, has like cards, and you would fight mobs with your cards, and it's like really cool, just like monster mobs that you like throw. It's just like Pokemon or Magic the Gathering. It was like a card thing, and you throw out a card, and whatever your card is, the being would come and fight for you. And I just thought that all of the mobs that came out of the cards were really creative. I love how much Matt Dinniman cares about making the game aspect immersive. The like stats and the leveling up and the achievements and just the descriptions that he gives the mobs and the backstories and also the AI unraveling. I love how detailed it is. Like, you could tell he deeply cares about every single aspect of this book, and I genuinely feel like I could just pick up a controller and start playing this game. Like, I thought that the whole like achievements thing was gonna get old. Like, after the second book, I was like, okay, like another long achievement, another mob description, like this is gonna get old. No, they just keep getting wilder and crazier, and the lore just keeps getting even more heavy and insane. And Matt Dinniman's mind, I love it. I love it. I love a passionate person sharing their art with the world, and that's what this is. It's just like so, I love it. I love being a part of this fandom. I can't believe I'm saying that because on paper I never thought I would have loved these books, but so good. And that's all I'm going to say because I said that I wasn't going to give too much away. So we're going to move on to DCC Book 7, which I have a reading vlog out of me reading The Parade of Horribles, which is Book 8. And in the beginning of that vlog, I do go really into detail on Book 7 because I literally finished Book 7, immediately set up my camera and started filming the vlog reading Book 8 because as soon as I finished Book 7, I started Book 8. Like, I was ready. Like, 6 p.m. finish Book 7, 6:01 reading Book 8. So if you want to see me go super into detail on my complex emotions and feelings and everything, I have a much more detailed partial video about Book 7. But Book 7 was The Inevitable Ruin, 5 stars. Who's shocked? Nobody. It was a masterpiece beginning to end. This is Faction Wars. It's what we've been gearing up for since like book 1. I want to say book 2 maybe. This, you really start to see the seeds that Carl has been planting throughout the entire series finally come to fruition. Just the small little acts of rebellion, just the small little like details of like, hey Carl, it's a go. And as the reader, you're like, what are they talking about? It all comes to fruition in Faction Wars. And I feel like when an author is alluding to something throughout the entirety of their books, it kind of can set themselves up for failure because it's so hyped up. Like, this is the thing that we've been hungry to read. Like, Faction Wars keeps getting talked about in every single book, and now we're finally here. Like, come on, Matt. Like, and he didn't disappoint. He literally just every single page turner. And the thing that's crazy is I hate sci-fi. I hate high fantasy. I hate historical fiction. I hate war books. I don't like world building. When I read to turn my brain off. I read to kind of escape, and I don't like to think because then it's not an escape. Like, I like to stretch my brain in the sense that, like, I love a whodunit, I love a thriller, I love a mystery, I love to solve who did the crime, but I like to do that in the realm of Earth. I like to picture my friends at Wawa or Starbucks or like San Antonio, you know, places I've been. I don't want to put so much work into the world building. DCC, you got to do a lot of that. You got to build the world. This book was war and fighting and strategizing and death and destruction and everything that I hate, but I couldn't put the book down. That was just how enraptured I was. I needed to know who was going to survive. I needed to know what was going to happen. And just the development between Donut and Carl's relationship is just getting increasingly heartbreakingly beautiful in this book. His relationship just with everybody, the complexity of the AI, because Faction Wars is about survival, getting through, killing as many people as possible and surviving. And then at the end of Faction Wars, what is next? So the lore starts to pick up in this book. That leads me into the next book, book 8, The Parade of Horribles, which I gave 4 stars to. This is the aftermath. You have rebelled. What happens if you win? Like, what are you going back to Earth? Are you living in the system? What happens if you destroy the AI? Who's gonna survive? Like, you have these people, you have a rock man, you have a talking cat, like, what's gonna happen? So book 8, I didn't really like. I talk more about it in my vlog. I feel like I did myself a disservice by reading books 1 through 7 back to back to back to back, because you're just on this like intense high of getting to Faction Wars. And then you get to Faction Wars, and then it's like, now what? Dealing with trauma, which I feel like Matt could have showed more trauma. I feel like we didn't touch enough on everybody's trauma and how they were coping with it. And maybe, to devil's advocate against myself, it's because they are so dehumanized up to this point that they no longer feel their trauma. But you just went through war. You went to war. Yeah, it's with like aliens and stuff, but you literally survived war. You were the general, Carl and Donut. You sent people to their deaths. Your decision caused people to die. And I feel like we could have dove into it a little bit more. But aside from that, the system was Mario Kart racing. It was just heavy lore, because now we're setting up for the finale, which is, how is this all gonna get wrapped up? Like, how is this gonna end? You have to start laying the foundation for book 10, for the ending. Like, if Carl wins, if the rebellion wins, what now? Earth is flat. Earth has been flattened. Like, are you just gonna live within the system? So it's setting up just like lore, heavy lore, confusing lore, very sci-fi, very confusing. It was a more slow book. It was just sort of like a breath, catching our breath after everything that was Faction Wars. And I feel like on a reread, maybe I'll appreciate this book more. But for me, I was just hyping it up so much because I'm reading all of these books like back to back to back. And then also around the time that I started book 4, I think, is when Matt Dinniman announced the release of book 8. So now not only am I reading all of these books because they're so good and I want to read them as fast as possible, I'm reading all of them to read book 8 when it gets released. So I'm also hyping up book 8 so much, and it's just, it fell flat for me. But I also need to acknowledge the place that it is in the bigger picture. Catching our breath after everything, the hunting grounds, the card system, and Faction Wars, like catching our breath after the shit show that was all of that, and then setting up for the finale. So not Matt Dinniman's fault that I didn't like it as much, and it's still a 4. Like, there is not a single DCC book that has been less than a 4 for me. They have all been 4 two of them, I think, if not more, two of them have been 5s, and it's so hard for a book to be a 4 for me, because a 4 is like, I love it, and I always find a reason not to love a book. I'll like strongly like it, I'll be like, that was a good book, but it's not like a love, a recommendation to every single person. I'm not talking about it with random strangers. Every single DCC book, 5 or above. So that's enough ranting and raving about DCC, because I feel like I'm not saying a lot about the books because I don't want to give too much away. I want you guys to read these books, but then I'm also not saying anything. So we're going to move on. We're going to move into summer slasher season. Let's talk about my first summer slasher, which was The Blonde Ice First by Joelle Wellington. I gave it a 3.75. Good start to slasher summer. Again, I'm not going to dive into the slashingness of these books too much. I did audiobook this one, and I really enjoyed the narration. I loved the voice that the audiobook narrator chose for our main character. It's the exact voice that I would have pictured in my head had I read it myself. I just didn't love the tone, I suppose, is a good way to put it. The premise of this book was our main character is a twin, first of all. Something about me, I don't like twins. I don't like twins. They freak me out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all my twins out there. Twins just kind of freak me out. And so she's a twin. And that was already like a notch down. But it's their summer before their senior year, but her twin sister is graduating early and going to college early. And so she's really big on like, this is going to be the best summer ever. She's planning a bunch of stuff. She just wants it to be like a phenomenal last summer together with lots of memories, which I really liked, the fact that it was a summer slasher and the summer played such a big part in the plot, but it wasn't like a typical summer camp, summer vacation sort of thing. And they go to a party, they bust out a Ouija board, demon gets released and starts hunting everybody in the group. Kind of like a demonic monster slasher, but meta in the way that Scream, everybody is aware that they're in a slasher and they start to strategize and be like, you're the final girl probably, and you're the virgin, or like you're the jock, you're the nerd, like don't do sex, don't do drugs, these are the rules, this is how we're gonna win. Very meta. Me personally, I think I'm getting to a point where I'm tired of reading meta slashers. This is very like, guy in a mask, ooh, is he Jason? LOL, referencing slashers. I just want to read a book where people get hunted and that's it. And they're not strategizing. It's a common theme in the summer slashers that I finished in this month. And it gets really tiring after a while, them being so aware of the genre of book that they're in. Furthermore, I don't always love the way adults write teens. It doesn't feel very believable. It's like the Riverdale-ification of books, where you'll watch something like One Tree Hill and be like, yeah, those are teenagers doing teenager things. They're a little bit more hot than the people that went to my high school, but I knew a girl in high school that got pregnant. I knew a mean cheerleader, like all very believable. They talk the way I talk. I want to be Brooke Davis. But then you watch Riverdale and it's like, slay queen, pussy boots, house down, queer, I love it, la la la. And it's like, no one actually talks like that. That's how I felt with this book. The dialogue didn't feel very believable. The way that they were interacting with each other didn't feel very believable. It just felt very like caricature of a teenager. And on top of that, I feel like books that do that also tend to really shove representation into your face, but not because it's good, but because they want the brownie points of having the representation. Like, I, as a person of color, would love to be able to just read a book that had people of color in it, or had queer representation in it, or had whatever kind of representation, without it being shoved in my face, without me being reminded every other chapter that our main character is a person of color, without every single interaction with the gay character mentioning that they are gay, because then it doesn't feel realistic. Like when I'm talking to my other friends of color, I'm not like, yeah, Asian queen. Like, I'm not calling up my best friend and being like, hey, What's it like being Asian? And that's how some of these books, the dialogue, like it says stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, people of color can just exist. Hot take. It's like Scream 5, how Scream 5 had their core four as Latin Americans and African Americans. And it wasn't a plot point, it wasn't addressed. They were just people of color in a movie the same way that white people exist in film. I would love to just read a book that has, because this book had such diverse representation and I really loved it, but it felt like every single other chapter it was like, also remember the main character is gay, also remember the main character's best friend is black, also remember the main character's other best friend is Jewish. And it's like, I know that. Why do you keep reminding me? It doesn't feel authentic. It feels like you only wrote this representation in for brownie points. Like, I'm an author that has representation. Do not cancel me in 2026. It just reads unauthentic, and also the way they interacted with each other also read inauthentic. So the entire time I was reading the book, I felt very aware of the fact that I was reading a book as opposed to living in the story and like living in the moment. I feel like some of the best books are written in such a way where you like feel like you're a part of it, you feel like you're there, and you kind of forget that you're reading a book. I also didn't love the ending. It felt very fast for how much buildup there was. It felt like it kind of just ended, and it also didn't make sense how the slasher became the slasher or the why of it. Plot B of this book was about gentrification, and I really liked the sort of like political commentary that the author was making about gentrification within this slasher. But the ending just, I was like, this is a cartoon. These are cartoonish villains. The way that they were talking, I was like, are you about to pull out a boiler hat and twist your little mustache? Like, what is this? No one talks like this. I thought the action leading up to the final fight scene was good. The final fight scene was not good. I also thought that the twin sister was so incredibly unlikable. I kind of at some point wanted her to die. Like, she was constantly on the chopping block because of course the twin sister of the main character is going to constantly be on the chopping block, so that way the main character can feel like all of this emotion and guilt, because the whole point of doing this fun summer was to reconnect with her sister and to save the friend group. So of course the sister is gonna constantly almost be dying, and she was just so mean and had this chip on her shoulder and just had to always be right, that I was like, I hope you die. Like, there's nothing about you that makes me want you to survive. Like, she had no redeeming factors, and I feel like in order to write a good slasher, every single character you have to feel some sort of emotion about them, and I guess I felt hatred. So yeah, but I just didn't care about her. The next book that I read, please save your comments. I know. Don't hate me. Don't light me on fire. I already know. The next book that I read was a Riley Sager book. I'm sorry. It was Final Girls. I know I hate Riley Sager. I say it a lot. I don't like this man. I don't like this author. However, every single summer slasher list you look up, Final Girls is on that list. And so I just felt like I needed to consume this book. I did audiobook it. I did. Riley Sager. I still this book pissed me off. I gave it a 3.75. It pissed me off because it was so good. I actually genuinely enjoyed this book. It's about our main character. She survived a slasher event, and when the media got wind of her surviving the slasher event, they called her a final girl. And prior to her slasher event, two other girls who are older than her survived slasher events. So there's like three final girls. It's the three final girls. And now it's modern day, present day. She's older. She's married or getting married or has a long time boyfriend or something. And the OG final girl dies. The second final girl knocks on our main character's door and is like, let's grieve together. Let's connect. Let's come together. And the whole book is about sort of the main character just dealing with her trauma, the trauma of losing this mentor that she had, that she wasn't very close with, because she never wanted to be defined by the fact that she lived through this slasher event. So she didn't want to be known as a final girl. So she wasn't close to these other two women. And now she has some regret about that. What's also complicated is that she doesn't remember a lot of what happened that night, which is causing people to doubt her story of like, maybe you were actually the slasher. And she's like, I know I wasn't, but I can't remember that night. And she has a lot of guilt about what happened that night. And so the book is about her sort of like overcoming her trauma, learning how to live with the survivor's guilt, learning how to be a survivor, trying to decide what kind of survivor she wants to be, the kind that like really leans into the whole like final girl aspect, the kind that wants to just like forget about it and move on. I thought it was so good. I loved her chapters. We do get interspliced chapters from the night of the slashing. I thought that the slashing chapters were like super well written. I was on the edge of my seat. I loved the twist ending. I loved who the slasher ended up being. I loved the ending of the book. I thought that it tied the entire thing perfectly in a bow. I just don't like Riley Sager. He is, whether subconsciously or consciously, a very misogynistic writer. He is. Argue with me. You can't. It's in the way he writes women. And the thing that's crazy is he only writes about women. Like, I read maybe one Riley Sager book where the main character is a man, and it was the most middle of the road, no opinion book ever. It made no impact on me. I literally gave it a solid 3 because it was unoffensive and uninteresting. Every single book I've read of Riley Sager where the main character is a woman, love or hate, no in between. He writes his women so terribly, so offensively. And it's crazy because as an author, you get to choose what your characters look like. Every single one of your characters could look like Scarlett Johansson if you wanted them to. They could have the talent of Taylor Swift if you wanted them to. They could be whoever you want. So why does this man choose to describe every single woman that our main character comes into contact with? In her mind, women don't think like this. In her mind, she'll be like, oh, Sally just walked in. She's pretty, I guess, but I wouldn't describe her as beautiful. Or like, oh, the girl checking me out at HEB, she's got like gorgeous blonde hair, but flabby arms. Or somebody just walked in. I guess you could call her cute, but I would overlook her in her room. Like, why are you choosing to describe every single woman in your book as not special, not beautiful, not anything? Like, why? Why do you need to do that? These women don't exist. They could just be beautiful. You also don't have to describe them. You actually do not have to describe them. You could simply say, the woman with blonde hair walked in. Sally came up to me with black hair and a little smile. Like, you don't have to give an adjective. You could just describe them plainly. You choose to describe them as ugly or unassuming or not beautiful or not special. Why? Furthermore, I don't want to get into spoilers. All I'm going to say is Riley Sager writes about our main character's sex life in a very unnecessary way. Her sex life actually plays a really big part in the plot. And to me, it felt like he added those details as a way to somehow pin the blame on our female main character. Pin the slashing onto her. She carries so much guilt over these slashings, and it's directly tied to the sexual acts that she's performed. And if you wrote the entire book without those scenes, the book would not change. Those scenes actually did nothing for the plot, aside from putting blame on our female main character. Absolutely unnecessary. Why, Riley Sager? Why do you do that? Why'd you do that? I'm so curious. Like, if I really want to get deep with it and play devil's advocate here, maybe it's some sort of like bigger political commentary, bigger commentary on the original slashers and the virginal final girl, and twisting that on its head and having her reclaim sexual. I don't think Riley Sager is that smart. I don't think it was some sort of meta commentary about final girls and sex. No, I think that you wrote a book where a man kills a bunch of people, and then you're like, how can I make this a woman's fault? how can I make this her fault? I know. Sex. Have her have sex with them. I hate how much I liked this book. It probably would have been a 4, like a really high 4, but for the misogyny alone, I took it down to a 3.75, which maybe isn't low enough, but the book genuinely was really good. I really enjoyed it. And if you know, like if you've read this book and you know what I'm talking about, I would love to discuss it with you in the comments. I'm probably going to go more deeper in my summer slasher recap videos. I'm probably going to include more spoilers in those videos, so stay tuned for that if you really want to see really want to hear my opinions about this book in detail. But I'm gonna leave it at that for now. Freaking Riley Sager, man. Like, his discography is also just so, he has so much. And they're all so, like, highly recommended. And some of his books are good. He's just that author for me. Him, Frida McFadden, on site. Let's talk about a book I actually liked. I feel like I've said a lot of negatives about those past 2 books, and I would like to talk about a book that I genuinely loved, which was My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones, 4.75 stars. Could not say enough good things about this book. Literally in freaking love with this book. When I think of a summer slasher, this is literally the blueprint of what I want all summer slashers to be. This was just such a great book. Like, I've read Stephen Graham Jones in the past. I was a teenage slasher for Slasher Summer last year, and I quite liked that one. I thought it was sort of like a love letter to slashing, like a fanfic almost of how a slasher comes to be, and I thought it was very creative. Just the way he described like why slashers disappear when you look away, and it was a beautifully written book. And it's the book that introduced me to Stephen Graham Jones. And then I read Night of the Mannequins, and it was terrible, and I hated it. And I was like, maybe when I was a teenage slasher, was a fluke. And then my brother bought me this book for my birthday, and it was practically perfect. So great, actually. Stephen Graham Jones, I'm your #1 fan. His writing is just so beautiful. And he doesn't write from a place of needing to be understood. He doesn't dumb down his writing so the masses can understand them. He writes who he writes for. And if you're his target audience, that's great. You're going to love the book. If you're not, do the work yourself. That's how this book was, because our main character, so the premise is, our main character, she's a Native American. She lives in a really small town. It's getting developed, so it's being like white rich people are coming into her really small, impoverished town, and she's obsessed with slashers. It's how she copes with life. She has very severe depression, but she doesn't love slashers in the way like I love slashers. She loves slashers deeply, and she is so intellectual about them, so knowledgeable about them. She's seen every single slasher ever to exist 5 times. Her references seem so genuine. And that's what I mean by like Stephen Graham Jones writes the book he wants to write, and whoever understands it, and whoever doesn't, you're just going to have to figure it the fuck out, because the references that he has her make to slashers, some of them I got. Some of them, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. But somebody who knows a lot about a topic isn't going to dumb down their references for other people, especially because we're inside of her head. She's not going to dumb down a reference inside her own head for somebody else. So yeah, she's going to make a super niche reference about a French slasher film. Google it. I was Googling so much. I was learning so much. I felt like I was in like a slasher crash course, the amount of fun facts that she was giving, because it was her narration of a slasher coming to town, and the fact that she feels like she cannot be a final girl. She's not deserving of being a final girl. She doesn't fit the final girl archetype. And the explanation we get as to why she thinks she can't be a final girl is heartbreaking. And I literally had to put the book down and just give it a hug, because Jade is such a devastating character to be inside of her head. But I would love just 5 minutes, a 5-minute conversation with her. And then we had interspliced chapters in between the narration of these essays that she would write to her history professor of like Slasher 101. And so it was like essays of like, one of them was about like the final girl, and one of them was about what makes a slasher, and just it was just like basically a crash course. And I just, as somebody who loves slashers but is sort of new to the genre, there's still so much I don't know, and I feel like I learned so much from her. She's also a different type of slasher consumer. She believes, she looks at all things through a slasher lens. I'm more of a slasher purist, and she was kind of winning me over with her points. I was like, you know what? Maybe the Phantom of the Opera is a slasher. Never would have caught me saying that before reading that book, but she was really getting into my head. The only reason it wasn't a 5, the only reason it wasn't perfect, even though I absolutely loved it, and I immediately went out and bought the next 2 books because it is a trilogy and I am going to read the next 2 books. The only reason it wasn't a 5 is because there was a couple of loose ends, a couple of things I was confused about that weren't clear. The ending wasn't clear, who was doing the slashing and why, and also some of the kills, did some of the kills belong to the slasher, or did some of the kills belong to somebody? It was just like a little bit muddy at the end, which either is a loose end or is going to be addressed in the second book. So just because I left being like a little confused, it just wasn't perfect, but it was still so amazing. And I've talked about it ad nauseum with like everybody in my life. Like genuinely, I cannot imagine another book topping this one the rest of the year, the rest of slasher summer. It was just so creative, and I love living in Jade's head. And I also hated living in Jade's head because she made me want to cry. Just the way she views herself and the way she views the world and just everything that's happened to her. It's very sad, but also her intellect is so inspiring, and just everything that she knows and can articulate just like at the drop of a, and it's not like I've read other books where the main character likes slashers, and it never feels genuine. It feels like the author is Googling slasher fun facts as they're writing the book. And it's always so cheesy. It's always like, damn, girl, that shirt is as sharp as Freddy Krueger's knife hands. And it's like, it's always a reference like that. Hers, I can't even describe them. There's just like the one that comes to my brain at the top of, like, on the tip of my tongue. The one that is in my brain, the one that's currently in my brain that I can think of, that I can recall right now, is she makes a reference to the fact that she is going nowhere in life, that she is going to amount to nothing, that she's spinning down the drain. She just says something like, where do people who amount to nothing go? I'm spiraling down that Bates Motel drain. Like, so, it was just some sort of like niche reference to the fact that she's going nowhere, she's going down the drain, nobody cares about her, and she ties it into the shower scene from Psycho. And she doesn't even say like, I feel like the water running into the drain from that one scene in Psycho and Bates Motel by Alfred Hitchcock, where people who aren't actually knowledgeable about what they're talking about over explain their reference. Hers, you got it or you didn't. You knew what Bates Motel was, or you didn't. You Googled it or you didn't know that it was Psycho. And that's what I mean by they're just very, like, I genuinely believed I was reading, that I was living in the head of somebody who actually did like slashers. Or maybe Stephen Graham Jones is like also obsessed with slashers. I don't know. I will give a trigger warning though, because there wasn't a trigger warning at the beginning of this book. Trigger warning for suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts, and depression. Those play a really big role in the entirety of the book. So, trigger warning for that. Next, I have a more disappointing book. I read book 2 in the Slasherverse series, Blood in the Water by Matthew R. Core. I gave it 1.75 stars. I was so disappointed in this book because last summer, book 1 in the series, Camp 1985, was the only good slasher summer book that I felt really represented the slasher summer genre. I thought it was so good, and I was so excited to finish the series. It was so good that it was literally on my Fable Letterboxd 5. It has since been replaced with My Heart is a Chainsaw. I was so excited to get back into the series this year, and this book was terrible. Really quick recap. In the first book, our main character, Ander, gets sent to a summer camp for social media influencers where their phones are taken away, and this ghost comes back from the dead, or I guess ghosts don't come back from this. Ghost gets activated and starts slashing people. Ander has like this necklace that he got from his dead father. His dead father was a medium, and so it glows when spirits are around trying to kill him. And so that was book one. I really liked the writing, I really liked the style, I really liked the pacing, I really liked the kills. I thought it was super creative. Book two, Ander and his love interest go to like an underwater hotel, and his necklace starts glowing again, and lo and behold, people start dying. Another spirit is coming around and slashing. This book, the writing had the same problem that I mentioned earlier, the Riverdale-ification, where I don't believe you guys are teenagers. The things you're saying no human teenager has said in the entire world. Just the Riverdale-ification, overly camp, overly cheesy dialogue, and woke to a point of borderline problematic. The way the author chose to write one of the gay characters, I thought he was making fun of gay people, that I literally had to Google whether or not this author was gay, because if he wasn't, I was going to stop reading the book, because it felt like a caricature of what a gay person is to a straight person. And I felt kind of icky reading it. The author is gay. Does that make the writing feel less offensive? I don't know, but I felt less icky reading it, knowing that he at least was from the demographic that he was representing. But he just was writing this character so over the top in a way that just, it felt like a caricature. And so that was the first part reading this book where I was like, okay, like I'm kind of not vibing with this book. Like I'm really not liking the way he's writing these characters. I don't like any of these characters. He writes them unbelievably like unlikable. Like I didn't really like any of the characters, and the characters that I did like felt so cartoonish. And then we get to the part where we're trying to figure out like why the ghost is killing, like what could have happened. And I'm going to spoil the book because I feel like I have to, because there's no other way to tell you how terrible I felt reading this book without completely spoiling it. And you're not missing much. The ghost used to work at the underwater hotel, because it's an underwater hotel and research facility. The ghost used to be a scientist at the research facility, and he was a really, really big pervert. And we find his diary and we read in detail his perverted imaginings and the way he would describe women. And then we read about him raping a fellow scientist in detail. And then those scientists kill him. They sort of like Lord of the Flies decide he needs to die. And now he's back getting revenge by only killing the women at this hotel. Mind you, these women have nothing to do with what happened. He's killing women. And the way he was killing them was so uncomfortably brutal that the book really just felt like an excuse to imagine violence against women. The only survivors were the men. The gay character that I was talking about, where it felt like he was making fun of gay people, he dies. The main character and his love interest, plot armor. The fact that they survived, they do nothing of, they're not final girls. They didn't earn their keep. They just happened to survive because they need to be alive for the third book. I did not like it at all. I do not think that rape ever needs to be that strong of a plot line. There are a million other things that could have been the catalyst for this ghost wanting to get revenge. Raping a woman and then forcing that woman to beg for her life and apologize before brutally slicing her open down her chest. Unnecessary. Written by a man, just felt disgusting. I felt disgusted by it. Like my skin, I wanted to like peel my skin off as I was reading it, which sucks because I was so excited for this book. But no, did not like it. Very much let down, and maybe 1.75 isn't even low enough. But the lore, really creative. The backstory he gives for the spirits and the journey that the main character is going on over the course of the series, really interesting. Just the everything else was bad. Fair warning, the next two books I talk about, also hated them. My June kind of ended on a sour note because the last three books I read, all terrible. In fact, I was also working on an audiobook for like 2 weeks, for like 2 full weeks, and I didn't finish it in June. I'm still working on it. I'm thinking of DNFing it, but I don't want to. Just yeah, my June didn't end very well. I'm so mad. I just realized that my microphone died while I was talking about my second to last book, and I didn't like my second to last book, and I do not want to talk about it again, but I have to because I lost all of the audio for that. So the second to last book that I read was There's No Way I Die First by Lisa Springer, and it was 2 stars because I didn't like it. I hated it. I didn't like it. It was bad. I didn't like it. It was about this girl who's like a horror movie influencer, and she's starting a podcast, and so she's throwing a Halloween party, and she invites a bunch of influencers to her house because for some reason her school has like a lot of influencers that just go to her school, and she throws like this movie watching party because she wants them all to post about her new podcast, and she invites this clown, this like scary clown actor, to come and play hide and seek with them and chase them around with a knife, and he starts killing them. That's the premise of the book. That's the premise of the book, and it sounds so interesting, except for it's not. It's not. It is the perfect example of telling over showing. This book was written with no emotion. Nobody was reacting to the deaths. Nobody was crying. Nobody was freaking out. Nobody was panicking. Our main character didn't even cry. Like whenever somebody would die, she'd be like, "Oh my god, what are the police gonna think? Oh my god, no one's gonna listen to my podcast now." She had no emotion. She would say she was scared, but she never actually acted scared. She would never actually was scared. I didn't like the ending. The person who ended up being the slasher made no sense. The person who ended up helping the slashing, because spoiler alert, it's a Scream 2 killer twist, made no sense. The explanation made no sense. It was very like rich people throwing a temper tantrum. It had so much commentary on the fact that there's never an ethical influencer. There was a lot of revenge killing of these influencers because you post about charity, but you don't volunteer. I donate money. I don't believe you dead. Like, it was just not original. We all know that influencing is not like, you can't believe everything you see on social media, and influencers kind of suck sometimes. Try being an influencer for a day. Like, it was just the killing of influencers, and it was bad. I don't want to talk about it anymore. My main problem was just the fact that she literally sheds no tears, and she was also so obsessed with being the final girl, and I would have loved it if the author dove into that a little bit more. Like, write a book about like an like an anti-hero. Write a book about a main character who's like super obsessed with being the final girl or being the one to survive this like instance, and make them do some like messed up stuff. Like, lean into it. Don't just have this girl be like, "There's no way I'm dying. I was meant to be a final girl. I have a go bag. I know how to hotwire a car. Maybe I'm gonna push my crush in front of me when the killer attacks me so I can win. Tee, I'd never actually do that." No, make her. Have her. Do it. Lean into it. Make your main character a little bit psycho, a little bit crazy. I didn't like this whole like half thing. That's all I'm gonna say about that. It was just a really bad book. It was a waste of time. With how many slashers I want to get through this summer, this book was a waste of time. And if I could earn back the time that I spent on this book and read a completely different one, I would. I would erase this book from my brain completely if I could. Which leads me into my final book of this video. Book number 3 of the Slasherverse series by Matthew R. Core. 2 stars. Static Snow. Why would you read the third book if you hated the second book? Because I thought that I could utilize this series for my series square on bingo. I'm playing Bookish Bingo with my best friend. One of the squares on bingo is series. You just have to finish a series. I had read the first book last year. Reading the last 2 would complete the square. So I read the third book. It's not the last book in the series. I got to the end of the third book. It was terrible. I hated it. But I'm like, at least I completed a bingo square. book number 4 coming out in 2026. No! And I'm a completionist, so I want to read the 4th book. I want to finish the series, but I don't think I can. I can't put myself through this again. I did not like the book, and I also thought the book was problematic again. The 2nd book had a great plotline. The 3rd book completely, basically, Ander and his love interest are trying to find answers about the glowing necklace and why spirits keep attacking him and his friends. They end up at this ski lodge, ski resort, and they get snowed in. And who happens to be there? The entire cast of Friends. Only it's not Friends, it's the neighbors. He completely ripped off Friends. The characters in the book are just the real life actors of Friends. The girl who's playing Monica literally was in a bad, trashy slasher film. First of all, don't disrespect Scream like that. Don't insult Scream like that. Don't call Scream a bad, trashy slasher film. Are you kidding me? You cannot disrespect the blueprint of the genre you are currently writing in. Your book is no Scream. Don't disrespect. I'm literally reading a book about how Scream completely revitalized and changed the slasher genre. Your book wouldn't exist without Scream because everybody was having slasher fatigue, and Scream is the only reason why slashers are still around. If it wasn't for Scream, slashers would have died out. Don't disrespect the greats. Okay? Second of all, maybe be a little creative. You're an author. You couldn't flex your brain and come up with your own sitcom. Literally, they were talking about like episodes from Neighbors, and it was the one where Julia got her head stuck in a turkey, the one where we were on a break, the one where we dated. Everybody hated that, talking about like the Rachel and the Joey characters. The one where you taught me to ride a bike. Like, literally just ripping off like Friends episodes. You could have just come up with your own sitcom, and then also making the actors very similar to the actors of Friends, to the point where one of the characters in this book, one of the neighbors actors, died of a drug overdose, much like Matthew Perry. And the things that he had some of the other characters say about people with drug problems, being like, he deserved it, he's an addict, he had it coming, what can you expect from addicts, making the Joey character in this book, the Joey actor, be the one to enable the Matthew actor, the Matthew Perry character, by giving him drugs. It's so disrespectful to Matthew Perry's death to use his tragic way of dying to pad your book. Just be creative. And I did read the author's note. He thought it was like an homage. He thought it was paying respect. No, it's plagiarism. It's not, because it's not. I know it's not plagiarism, but it felt like plagiarism. You're just stealing, you're just passing Friends off as your own thing in your own book, and you're just stealing aspects of these real life people, and you're not disguising it very well, and then you're writing about the actual, and then to make matters worse, he made Matthew Perry the slasher. The character based on Matthew Perry, who died of a drug overdose, is the slasher. He kills all of his friends. He kills the entire cast of Neighbors. That felt so disrespectful to Matthew Perry. And it wasn't even real well written, and the main character and his boyfriend survive again, completely plot armored. And the deaths just started to get a little bit more a little bit more gory, a little bit like really cruel. And it was like a plot point where this Matthew Perry inspired character was really into like torture porn, was really into like watching videos of people getting beat up. And the actress who played Monica, they were married in real life. She found his like torture chamber, like a warehouse with like blood and tarps, and they suspect that he was killing people. Like, you can't, I don't know, I just found it insanely disrespectful to completely model a character after Matthew Perry, kill him in the same way that Matthew Perry died tragically, and then make that character into torture porn and and make him the slasher and make him kill his friends in such brutally graphic ways. Like, I love a fun kill. That's what slashers are, is what a campy fun kill. Some of these deaths were disgusting. And especially knowing that it's inspired by Matthew Perry, picturing Matthew Perry, he died so tragically, and now this is like what you're doing with his legacy. Like, maybe I'm being too much of a softie about it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe it's not even that serious, but I found it disrespectful, and I thought that the book wasn't even good enough to make up for it. It sucks because the premise is really cool. I really like the idea of like Ander having this like soul crystal that's connected to other crystals, and like there's apparently this book insinuated that there's going to be like some sort of big bad. I really like the lore he's created. I think it's super interesting, but just the rest of the book is so bad. And I don't think I'm going to be able to continue the series. So reading these 2 books was literally a waste of time because I can't even use it for bingo. They weren't even very good. And I don't want to continue the series. There's probably going to be 2, if not 3 more books based on how many crystals they've insinuated that there are in the world, and each crystal being a book. And what a sad end to this video. What a sad note to end on. Those are all the books that I read in May and June of this year. I'm going to continue to read summer slashers through July and August, so the next time we do a recap video, it'll be more summer slashers, and at the end of the summer, I'm going to do a complete summer slasher recap. I'm going to be releasing some vlogs. I am going to release a video talking a little bit more in depth about what is a summer slasher, what constitutes a slasher, and why I love slashers so much. Please comment down below if you know of any summer slashers that you think that I should read before the end of summer slasher season. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you disagree with me, if you loved some ones I hated, if you loved some ones that I loved. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Riley Sager. Let's talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl. We can still talk about that. Hit me up in the comments. If you've read Dungeon Crawler Carl, are you excited for book 9? How do you think book 10 is going to end? I literally do not know how Matt Dinniman's going to land this plane. Let me know if you liked this video. This is my second attempt at filming this video. I tried to film it earlier in the week, unscripted, and it was really bad. And so this is my second attempt. This one was also unscripted, but the mistake I made for the last video is that I just started filming and didn't refresh myself on any of the books. So I was literally sitting here being like, what was that book about? And then I would just ramble. So this is unscripted with some structure, because it had been so long since I had done YouTube videos that I had been scripting my videos up until this point. So this is my first fully unscripted video. Let me know if you liked it. Let me know if it was a little bit too jimbly jambly. Let me know if I jumped around too much. I had fun just kind of like chatting with you guys though. I'm gonna leave my Fable on my Pagebound in the caption below if you guys would like to connect, but that is all. As all. I missed you guys. I can't wait to edit this video and get it out, and then I can't wait to continue to read more summer slashers. I'm gonna rest my voice, I'm gonna eat some peach cobbler, and I'll see you in the next chapter.